Hello, my name is Karen Fabian and welcome to Living Well, your show for information and inspiration to improve your health and wellness. We have a packed show for you today. Let me share with you what we're going to be doing. First, we're going to go over some yoga poses that you can do to help with back pain. This can be a really common problem for people. In our Well of Wellness segment, we'll meet Jose Masso, who is the Director of Active Living and Wellness at the Boston Department of Public Health. And he'll be sharing with us some free programs you can take advantage of to stay healthy right here in Boston. In our Ask the Expert segment, we'll meet Berit Reinhorn, a yoga teacher and doula. We'll find out what a doula is. I didn't know until I did this segment with her. In our Inspiring Stories segment, we're going to meet my friend Stephanie Rogers. Stephanie has had breast cancer and she's currently in remission, and she blogged about her journey through treatment and recovery on her blog Culture Junkie. And then I'll share with you our Living Well Twitter viewer challenge, so you can start to live more healthy and kind of think about some of those things that you could do to change behaviors to some healthy ones. If you're watching the show in Boston or live streaming it on your computer, great. After the show airs, it will be on YouTube, so please share it. I'd also like to thank the show's primary sponsor, Yoga Reaches Out. Yoga Reaches Out is an organization that raises funds for children's charities, and they are the primary sponsor of the show. But I'd also like to thank Zumiez Coffee in Charlestown, who is another major sponsor. If you're looking for great breakfast or lunch, please stop by 221 Main Street. So let's begin. In our first segment, which is called Strike a Pose, I'm going to bring on my friend Victoria, who is a yoga teacher. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Karen.
We're going to be talking about back pain. Is this something that you hear about from your students? What kinds of things do they say?
Yeah, it's really common to hear about. I hear it a lot from students who have desk jobs where they're sitting all day, or if you're commuting on the train, in the car, driving.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do. So come right here we brought a yoga mat, brought a couple things so we can share with you some of these postures. So first we're going to come into child's pose. So when we talk about the back and back pain, oftentimes people complain about lower back pain. So as Victoria comes down into child's pose, you can see the shape gives a nice stretch and lengthening to the low back. But for some people, this can actually be a little bit uncomfortable. So if I ask her to pick her head up, she can rest her forehead right on a block. And in some cases, there actually can be some discomfort for folks to rest back. So if I ask her to lift her seat, she can rest back and put a blanket in between her seat and her heels. And this will stretch out this whole lower back area, which can be a nice way to kind of take away some of the effects of just sitting and compressing the low back all day. So next, let's come up to a lunge. I'm going to show you two different ways to do a lunge. And lunges, generally speaking, among a bunch of benefits that they provide, stretch your hip flexor muscles. And your hip flexor muscles, the primary one being your psoas, starts in your low back and wraps around and ends on your thigh. So in this particular shape we're doing here, we're stretching the muscle on this side. And if she were to switch legs, you don't have to do it, it would stretch on the other side. So we'll do both sides. Reach your arms up to the sky. And as we kind of take a shape like this, we can work it with the knee down and stretch in this area. Or if she tucks her back toes and lifts her knee up, it's a little bit more intense, but the same stretch is provided. Great. So now come on down and let's add a little bit of a twist. Let's put the block here and set your hand down on the block and then take your right arm to the sky. So twisting can be really effective for helping with back pain because what we're actually doing now is working the muscles of the core, so the muscles that provide twisting. And you can see here as she's taking a twisting shape, she's starting to stretch those muscles and work those muscles as well. One of the other things that we can do, let's actually have you come down to your seat. So you can see a lot of these postures are very grounding. We're not only on the ground, but we're creating some roots into the ground, so they can be very accessible for people that maybe aren't doing a lot of stretching but want to feel some of the benefits of these postures. So we're going to come into bridge pose. So come on down to your seat and then down to your back. And this is a really nice way to stretch your hip flexor muscles as well. As she lifts her seat off the ground, you can see the same kind of stretch through this front area is provided as when we did that knee down lunge. So coming down and then coming up to seated. Excellent. So you can see working some of these shapes is going to give you a nice way to stretch the lower back. And you know, there's actually one other thing that we should do. Come down to your back one more time. When we talk about the twisting muscles of the core, there's also a long muscle that runs up and down the front of the body. And if we work the core as well as stretch the back, overall we can create a healthy back. So if you take your feet up to the sky and then interlace your hands behind your head, this is a very basic way, and then lift your shoulders up and just do that a few times. We can get a nice way to work this long line down the middle of the body, and then along with the twisting and the stretching of the hip flexors, all together it can create some relief in the low back. Awesome. Come up to seated. Thank you, and thank you for watching. Let's go to our next segment. We're going to take a short break, and we'll meet Jose Masso. Thanks.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just
Please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
In our Well of Wellness segment, we're going to be talking today about creative ways you can stay fit by taking advantage of programs that the City of Boston has to offer. I'd like to introduce you to Jose Masso. Jose Masso is the Director of Active Living and Wellness at the Boston Public Health Commission. Welcome, Jose. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about why the City of Boston is interested in the health of the people that live here.
Sure. Well, the Boston Public Health Commission, the mission of the Boston Public Health Commission is to promote, preserve, and protect the health and well-being of all city residents, particularly the most vulnerable.
Okay.
So it fits well within our mission and our goals and our vision and the activities and things that we want to do.
Okay, that's great. I don't even know that a lot of people even realize that there's a whole department just focused on the health of the residents of the city.
Yes, we are the city's health department, and a lot of folks do not know about that.
That is great. You know, when I said in researching this segment, the Director of Active Living and Wellness, that's such an interesting title. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure, it sounds, it actually is cool in terms of the, the work that I do.
It sounds very current, and it sounds like something that's on the topic, on the minds of people. Health
Absolutely.
and wellness.
So in particular, as far as the day-to-day is concerned, it's managing and directing a lot of the programs and activities and grants that we currently have.
Mm-hmm.
So one in particular that we currently just received is a CDC-funded grant, which is PITCH, which is the Partnerships to Improve Community Health. So within that, I am a team lead for active transportation. So within there, I work closely with all the other team leads, the director, Mary Bovenzi, who leads up the whole PITCH project, and also ensuring that we work with our partners, the Boston Transportation Department, to work on complete streets, Boston Public Schools to work on safe routes to schools, and Boston Bikes to work on increasing Hubway subsidized memberships, Roll It Forward, which is a bike program that they have available, the amount of Hubway stations throughout the city, and of course bike lanes as well.
So it's all transportation by lots of different ways.
Correct, and once again, different ways to keep people active and keep them moving as well. So that is one thing in particular. Aside from that, the wellness aspect, we focus on our internal workplace wellness, so to ensure that the Boston Public Health Commission employees have access to wellness opportunities. And so we have several programs and resources available throughout the commission. Aside from that, we also try to promote it externally as well. So we promoted a wellness toolkit a few years back underneath Boston Moves for Health, which is available to employers throughout the city, in which they can engage their employees to be active and live well as well.
Got it. About how many people are you talking about, employees of the city?
Of the Health Commission, about 1,200 roughly.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay, great. Well, one of the things that we were talking about before the show is are free things that people could take advantage of in Boston, that people might not even know about. And certainly when people think about trying to stay healthy, cost can sometimes be an issue. And not that that's the only aspect of what you're going to talk about, but tell us a little bit about programs in Boston that people can take advantage of to stay healthy.
Sure. Well, Karen, so this week we actually just launched our Summer Fitness Series, which is a partnership with the Boston Parks Department, in which what is available is a whole list of free classes available to city residents.
Like what?
Like Zumba, yoga, boot camp, you name it.
All outside?
All outside, all
free.
Outdoors, free. completely
Awesome.
free.
Wow.
So we actually this year received funding from Blue Cross Blue Shield
Okay.
in order to support these activities. And so last year we did it as well. We had, once again, another partnership with the Boston Parks and Recreation Department,
Yep.
in which we had about 102 classes available and provided, roughly about over 10,000 participants. So it was a great turnout. We're looking to
That's
hopefully...
a huge number of people.
It is, it is.
People love working out outside.
It is. I mean, in terms of what's available to folks,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, as far as removing the barriers in terms
Yeah.
of cost, and sometimes it is cost prohibitive
Sure.
to folks in order to be able to afford these type of activities, and so we just really want to remove that and just say, here, it's available, it's outdoors.
Right.
if the
And
weather's-
Boston has a lot of great spots. You could say Christopher Columbus Park.
Correct.
Esplanade.
Franklin Park, you name it, Harambee
Nice.
Park in Dorchester, so quite a few others as well. So just really it's just along the lines of Jamaica Pond, Boston Commons, of course, so these other parks that
That's
are available
great.
throughout the city.
That's great. Excellent. Boston is a unique place in this regard.
Correct.
Yeah, that is great. Well,
Well, I mean, other cities do it.
Yeah.
Other cities have other opportunities as well, but definitely Boston.
we can kind of leverage our natural architecture, I guess.
Correct, correct.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think this has been just a great way to share this information with the residents of the city.
Sure.
And coming up next in our next segment, we're going to be talking about having a healthy pregnancy.
Thank you.
Don't let E. coli mosh with your food. An estimated 3,000 Americans die from a foodborne illness each year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So always separate raw meat from vegetables. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Hi, we're now here for our Ask the Expert segment. We're going to focus on the topic of pregnancy and the ingredients to having a healthy pregnancy. But before you think this is just for women, let me say that we're actually going to be touching on some things that are both for moms and partners. So I'd like to introduce you to Barrett Reinhorn. Barrett is an experienced registered yoga teacher with a specialty in prenatal and postnatal yoga. Along with yoga, she has also trained and done work as a doula. We're going to learn what a doula is today, and a childbirth educator. She teaches over 50 pregnant and newly postpartum women each week in her classes, and also leads prenatal and postnatal teacher trainings several times each year. She's a mother to a 3-year-old, and she is in the 3rd trimester of her 2nd pregnancy. Welcome, Barrett. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, I asked you this question in our pre-interview. What is a doula? What does the word mean, and what is a doula?
Well, it comes from an ancient Greek term that means with women, and it's a person who is a support person for you, specifically during labor. So they give physical and emotional support. So they're not a medical provider. You would always have a doctor or a midwife. But the doula gives you some continuity. So you meet her in pregnancy, she's on call for you, she comes to you when you're in labor, and she helps you and your partner just kind of negotiate through however long your labor is. That's always
So it's like physical help, emotional help,
Definitely both.
Okay.
So physical help, lots of different positions you can be in, suggestions for now's a good time to take a walk. I know you're feeling a little tired, but it will speed up your labor.
Got it.
Also emotional help for sure, like when you get to the point where like, I can't do this anymore. She
like
says
a coach.
She's absolutely a coach.
Okay.
That's actually
Psychological coach kind of thing.
absolutely what she is. And she's a big help for partners too, because most partners, just like most first-time pregnant women, they've never been to a birth before. They're not experts.
Right.
She's been to lots of births. She's not personally involved.
Yeah, not going to freak out.
Not at all. And she
Okay.
really just helps both of you move through all of the different stages of labor. And studies have shown that when you have a doula, that continuous labor support, all of the rates of interventions, whatever that might be, C-section, epidural if you didn't want one, all those rates go way down.
Interesting.
So it's one of the best things you can do to have just a low intervention birth.
Okay. And if someone wanted to find a doula, how would they find one?
It's pretty easy to just Google doula in your area. There's a couple major doula training organizations that you can look up, and they've got lists. And then the best thing is if you're pregnant to just get on a mom's listserv. Like in Somerville and Cambridge where I live, there's a big couple of big listservs. There's ones for this side of the river too, and ask, who did you use as a doula, and who did you like, and who would you recommend?
Right.
It's just an interview process of finding somebody that works for you.
Got it. And how do the hospitals react to having someone like this in the mix with the healthcare professionals?
They're certainly pretty used to doulas at this point. It's not a new concept. There wouldn't be a doctor, midwife, or nurse that hasn't ever heard of a doula in the Boston area. Some people, in different parts of the country or world, might need to introduce the concept of a doula to their care provider, but here
in Boston, generally,
it's very clear. And then any experienced doula, has worked in all of the hospitals. I mean, that's where doulas are the most helpful, because you don't know who you're going to have in your labor, and so that's why people hire doulas, is to help them sort of navigate through at the hospital. So they know how to work in the hospital.
And if you had to kind of think of the recipe or the ingredients to having a healthy pregnancy, what are some of the things that come to mind for both the mom and the partner?
Well, one of the things is that when you're pregnant, you don't usually say okay, now I'm pregnant, and I have to create a lot of time in my life. I'm going to start working
Stop
part-time.
everything else.
Nobody does that, right? We all do all the things that we already were doing, but we are growing a new life 24/7. You can't really take off the belly and say, I'm not going to do that today.
Right.
So just kind of stopping and recognizing that this is taking a lot of your energy.
Yep.
And so every day in little ways, like for example, by the 3rd trimester, if something took me 10 minutes to walk to, now I put 15 minutes on my schedule to walk there, so I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to run and pull a muscle, which is very common at the end. So just making time and recognizing that pregnancy changes a little bit your pace. You're preparing for a baby, but the baby is already here.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, you're already modifying your life, and that's a good thing. It kind of helps the transition to the postpartum period go a little bit more smoothly. So my number one recommendation for anybody, no matter what kind of pregnancy you're having, is make time. So in little ways, and then also in bigger ways. Most people take a childbirth education class at some point in their pregnancy, and the most common thing is to take a one-day class or maybe a weekend class, and that doesn't really do as much as if you were to take a multi-week class. And that is a bigger investment, but every little bit that you do really helps you settle into your pregnancy and feel much more confident.
Awesome.
And then that transfers definitely to the birth day, which is another big day, and then most important of all, the rest of your life where you have the baby.
That sounds great.
So make a little bit of time.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
It's been great to hear this information. I'm sure it's been helpful to moms to be out there.
Great.
Coming up next, our Inspiring Stories segment, so stay tuned.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Hi, welcome back. On Living Well, I'll be bringing you some inspiring stories of people in our community who may have gone through some challenges that we can all learn from. So today we're going to be talking to Stephanie Rogers. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Stephanie is an Executive Vice President for Media and Technology at Partners & Simons, a marketing communications firm specializing in the health and financial sectors. In January of 2012, Stephanie was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She underwent treatment and in November of 2014 celebrated 2 years in remission. I asked Stephanie to come on the show because I was so inspired reading about her journey on her blog, Culture Junkie. Stephanie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about what happened to you?
Sure. So I actually found a lump in my breast a year prior to my diagnosis. I was 38 at the time and in good health, or so I thought.
Yeah.
And I had never had a mammogram before. And so I went in for my first mammogram, and it was determined that I had a cyst, which is a very common occurrence in women, and typically they are benign and nothing to worry about.
Okay. So you thought?
So I didn't worry about it. And a year went by, and the spot was still bothering me. And so I went in for my annual physical exam, and I asked my primary care physician to check it out, and she did confirm that it felt a little off.
Yep.
So I went in for another mammogram. This was a year later, and also for a meeting with a breast specialist. And I went into the hospital at 9:30 a.m. and following not one but two mammograms, an ultrasound, and 2 biopsies, I actually went home with a cancer diagnosis that day at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not something you anticipated.
No, not at all.
So what happened then?
So I went into treatment. I had chemotherapy and radiation, and the better part of 2013 was spent fighting it off.
Wow.
And I'm happy to report that it's been 2.5 years. I'm in remission now and feeling great.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. What are some of the things that you learned about yourself having gone through this?
The first thing probably was just how strong I am. I had never been a particularly athletic person. I had never broken a bone or had stitches or surgery or anything like that. And so for me, the physical part of the treatment, the needles and the biopsies and the surgeries, that was really hard for me. And I just had to learn to take things one day at a time, which sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I started the blog actually as a coping mechanism because at the very beginning of my diagnosis and my treatment, it was really hard for me to talk about it. And I had all
To
these...
people?
To people.
Okay.
And I had all these wonderful people all around me that would inquire every day, you know, how am I doing, what's going on, can I help, which was great, but it was really hard for me to have to keep telling the story and giving the updates over and over again. So I started the blog as a way to document it all and
Culture Junkie, that's the
Culture Junkie.
And what's the name? What's the name? Culture Junkie.
I actually had the blog prior to the diagnosis, and I've been a blogger for a number of years about all different things that I find interesting. And then of course when I was faced with this, it was a good outlet for me to talk about it, and I could direct everybody there and not have to keep talking about it every day. And what I found was that writing about it was really cathartic for me, and I also met a lot of other people going through the same experiences, and they found comfort in what I was writing, and I found comfort in that. So it was really neat to have that.
From a health perspective, are there certain things that you learned or that you would kind of, in a giving advice way, share with other women that you've gotten from this experience?
Absolutely. One is you have to be your own advocate. Medical science is wonderful, but it's not perfect. And I did learn that mammograms, while they are great preventative screening tools, don't always work so well with younger women who have dense breast tissue. So if you feel like something's wrong, it could be that something's wrong, and you shouldn't necessarily just accept what the doctors tell you if you feel differently about it. So
trust your gut.
Trust your gut, and it's okay to ask questions or get a second opinion or go back for another test. And that's probably the biggest thing. The second thing I would say is eating well and making time to exercise. It's so hard in this day and age. We live such a fast-paced life, but you really have to take care of yourself first because it really goes a long way health-wise.
Great. That's great advice. Great advice. Well, thank you. I know this took some courage to come and share, and I really, really appreciate it. I think it's a great service to women to share this information with them from your personal experience. So thank you so much for coming.
Very much.
Coming up next, our Living Well Twitter Challenge. Stay tuned.
Son, tell him that I've begun of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Hi, welcome back. Our Living Well Twitter challenge is something I'm going to throw out to you every show we do. And it's really meant to get you starting to thinking about something that you might want to give up or a new behavior you'd like to start all around your health and wellness. It could be something like try to go to bed before 11 o'clock. It could be try to eat something healthy every day. But just something to get you starting to think about how you can make some changes in your life to make your health a priority. So once you've thought of something, I encourage you to tweet about it using the hashtag LivingWellBNN. And we can start to build our community and support each other as we make health a priority in our lives. So that's our show for today. Remember, not only can you see the show on the Boston Neighborhood Network, but it is going to be on YouTube. So you can grab the link and share it with your friends and family and spread the word about making health a priority in our lives. So between now and our next show, live well. If you have any questions or you'd like to get in touch, you can visit my website at Bare Bones Yoga. Thanks so much for watching.